All right. What killed after school television?
Do you remember how it felt to come home from school, switch on the TV, and settle in for a few hours of quality, curated entertainment?
Yep, I remember.
You hugging the TV?
No.
Bro, I remember from about, I think like 4th or 5th grade through middle school, and then maybe like my freshman year in high school. Bro, I would love to just come home around like 3 or 4 and just finally catch like Toonami coming on. You watch all those like animes and shit, like Rurouni Kenshin, Dragon Ball Z, a ton of other ones, Yu Yu Hakusho, and just watching that shit on like the prime time whenever Toonami was popping off back in the day. And then like after it would be like the Adult Swim section with like the more adult cartoons.
This universal experience spanned decades and cross-generational divides, and yet it has practically vanished from our modern existence. So what happened to after-school programming, and will
The
it
Disney
ever
Channel.
return?
Piggy and the Brain have taken
Oh,
over
Piggy
their
the Brain.
very own Kids WB
Yep,
show.
Kids WB. Yep.
Pondering what I'm pondering?
We're gonna dive into those questions today, but
Nickelodeon.
first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Nerdstalgic
All the go-to
so you don't
channels.
miss out on our next upload. After-school programming is just a subcategory of block programming. This practice gave consumers more control, which resulted in them tuning in more often and for longer periods, and that made advertisers happy in turn. The larger television viewing audience was parsed down into several key demographics for advertisers. Among these groups, children were understood to be one of the more lucrative. Thus,
Yeah. You know why kids are so lucrative? It's because they see the ad on the TV, and it's catered to them, and then all of a sudden they just bug the shit out of their parents, and then the parents most of the time give in to their kid, and it's like, okay, I don't want to deal with this anymore, I'm just gonna go buy you the thing, just leave me alone. All right, so for me, it was video games and Pokemon cards, and more so on the Pokemon cards. I would always be like super hyped to get like $4.25, and I would just get it somehow for and then just be like, Mom, can we go like the 7-Eleven, can I get like a booster pack? And she'd be like, half the time she'd be like, okay, and then the other half she'd be like, no. It was very like hit or miss, and I'd be just bugging her all the time about the fucking Pokemon cards. And yeah,
children's programming blocks began airing on various television networks. While Saturday morning cartoons were the earliest and most popular implementation of this idea, after-school programming was its own formidable beast.
Yeah.
Exhausted parents or their enterprising children could find age-appropriate TV shows between the hours of 2 and 5 p.m. on both local and national networks. At the time, the most likely suspects were programs like Howdy Doody, Clutch Cargo, Ultraman, and reruns of classics like Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes.
The Looney Tunes.
That's all, folks.
Decades passed. Eventually, Howdy Doody gave way to He-Man and Transformers in the 1980s.
So good.
More children's programming started to flood our TV screens along with wildly aggressive advertisements. Your favorite heroes would appear in commercials to sell you action figures, breakfast cereal, and just about anything they could get away with. That is, until parents groups and political activists got a little too loud to ignore. After years of complaints and lobbying, the Children's Television Act was put in place in 1990.
Shit. Oh my god.
The CTA aimed to regulate both the type and duration of commercials that could be played during children's programming blocks. It also ensured that the shows themselves held some kind of educational value. This meant big changes to children's entertainment, but in truth, the tide had already been changing. Cynical TV shows made explicitly to sell toys continued to persist. Some of them were even
Street
good,
Sharks,
but plenty of worthwhile lessons were being taught to kids before 1990 as well. Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Bro, I watched all of this shit. I watched Sesame Street. I watched Mr. Rogers. I remember there was Lamb Chop. I wonder if you're going to mention Lamb Chop in there with the song that never ends.
Had been a shining beacon of wholesome educational content since the late 60s. The first episode of Reading Rainbow aired in
Rainbow, I forgot about that shit. Reading Rainbow was so good.
1983 with the stated purpose of maintaining children's ability to read over summer break. And Fraggle Rock aired the same year, intending to teach kids about diversity and acceptance while simultaneously being a fever dream.
The trash heap knows all. The trash heap tells all.
Let's face it, boys, the trash heap is all.
Too true. Too true.
But 1990 made these edutainment type shows a legal necessity. As such, some TV shows got creative by writing easy lessons of the week about basic educational concepts, like the X-Men and Spider-Man animated series, while other, more explicitly educational shows.
Damn, dude, I was raised on fucking cartoons. I know all of these shows. Captain Planet was goated. Anytime they summoned Captain Planet with the rings, what was it? Earth, Wind, Water, Fire, Heart. Yeah.
Shows like Captain Planet and Magic School Bus
Magic School Bus was so good too.
also had their time to shine. From there, a new nostalgic age of after-school programming was born.
Carmen San
Fox
Diego.
Kids, Nick in the Afternoon, Kids WB, the Disney Afternoon, and PBS Kids were by far the most popular programming blocks during the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
A mix of fresh content.
Power Rangers. Oh my god, I had the VHSs for the Power Rangers too. These were so freaking cool, man.
And shows from previous decades populated these time slots. New episodes tended to air on Saturday mornings. Kids who sat down during the week were treated to reruns of legendary TV
Maniacs.
shows like Batman the Animated Series, Rugrats, DuckTales, Ren and Stimpy, and Pokemon. Enduring aforementioned classics like Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes also remained in the lineup, withstanding the test of time and the test of the CTA's legal boundaries. It was an exciting time to be a kid. Around this time, as networks got more competitive, programming blocks started to pull out all sorts of tricks and gimmicks to keep kids from changing the channel. It was the themed bumpers between shows, the mini games to play along with, and, of course, the kid-targeted high-energy commercials for cool toys and sugary snacks.
Yeah, I am so susceptible to marketing.
After-school programming of this era was made to feel like an exclusive kids-only
Like
event
with
that
Louie.
we could talk to our friends about the next day. Like with Saturday morning cartoons, there was a palpable atmosphere to these hours between 2 and 5 p.m. One where kids had total control and felt as though the content was speaking directly to them rather than down at them.
Yeah.
Way to commercials. Hey, it wasn't my idea.
But as with all good things, this golden era could not last forever. In 1996, the Children's Television Act was re-examined and stricter regulations were put into place. Known colloquially as the Kid Vid rules, these regulations forced networks to air at least 3 hours of strictly educational content.
Oh, wow. So the government just realizes the power of marketing and how, like, literally they realize what kids are doing from this time to this time, and based off of like statistics or whatever. So then they're just like, oh, okay, well, they can have the cartoons, but they just got to be a little more educational. I mean, around this time, I don't think it was like the worst thing for cartoons. I mean, to me as a kid, I think there were cartoons I did like and cartoons that I didn't like, but I'd have to go back and like figure it out. Like, I don't really remember there being a time when cartoons just changed.
Proposal fulfills the promise of the Children's Television Act, that television should serve the educational and informational needs of our young people.
It became more difficult for action-oriented TV shows with vague lessons about friendship and environmentalism to stay afloat. The largest networks managed to keep their kids' programming alive, but not without drastic changes. Time slots were slashed, so most after-school blocks only lasted a single hour. Advertisers were finding it difficult to skirt around the guidelines and limited airtime. Shows were canceled or had their budgets severely cut.
Maybe this was about the time I stopped watching, maybe?
Less effort was being put into the event-like details we used to love. And then there was the looming threat of the internet. The cultural landscape was changing as
AOL started popping off around this time. Those little like AOL discs where it's like, pop the disc in, make the account, and then, oh, you got internet. And then you had the AIM messenger. That was a hoot.
home computers started to become more common. The internet was going to be as unignorable as parents' groups were in the 80s. It was easily accessible at any time, or as easily accessible as dial-up could be. Kids no longer had to rush home to catch the beginning of a show. They could entertain themselves whenever they felt like it with the click of a mouse. The rising popularity of video games also contributed to the dwindling ratings of once great programming blocks for the same reasons. Kids had more options than ever, which was great for them, but not so great for our favorite networks.
Don't go away. The Disney afternoon will return. Goldberg.
By the mid-2000s, after-school programming was on life support. Saturday morning cartoons weren't looking too healthy either, and
Saturday morning cartoons weren't looking too healthy either. Bro, I remember all of these. Like the Kids Next Door, the Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Jimmy Neutron.
Then, if this wasn't enough of a blow, the 2010s brought something new to the table: streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Now, their favorite TV shows can be played at any time. Not only that, but they can pick which episodes they specifically want to watch, sometimes totally ad-free. There's just no room for the after-school programming of old. And
There's
in
not.
some ways, that's a good
I mean, I'm not a kid. I don't even have a TV in my room. I don't have a TV in my house. Well, I got a TV in my house, it's in the living room, but I don't know. I just don't. I mean, we cut the cable a while ago, like many years ago, and so I have no idea what's being played on like just cable television anymore.
good thing. This level of consumer control means that each individual viewer can create their own block. If they want to watch 6 uninterrupted hours of Cocomelon, then they can do that and leave the rest of us out of it. Streaming platforms aren't even our only option. A huge wealth of educational children's content has found a home on YouTube, where people like Miss Rachel continue the spirit of shows like Mr. Rogers, with an engaging level of kindness and empathy.
Oh, that's cool.
This, friends? Green. Wow.
But there was a magic to that golden age of after-school programming that's severely lacking in today's modern age.
Obviously, there's like a target age range.
Event-style television is much harder to come by, especially for children, and the sheer amount of available content means that everyone is watching something different. Our viewing experiences are becoming increasingly insular, which hurts the sense of community audiences used to have, and the creativity.
Bro, it was always the coolest thing when like you'd watch like the most recent episode of Pokemon, and then you would have like the Pokemon card, and then all your friends would see that episode, and you just talk shit about like what happened on the episode. It's like, oh, Charmander almost got his tail like lit out from the rain, and he almost died because the fire just went out. And it's like, oh, but Ash didn't let him, and all this other noise. And I don't know, it was just cool. Now it's like, oh, what color was the house on that one episode of Blippi? It was green, bro. Nice.
Behind show bumpers and mid-show mini-games has become a lost art. But the internet is a double-edged sword. While it is partly responsible for killing after-school programming, it's also helping it keep it alive. Re-uploads of nostalgic old...
Yeah, but like I think back, and I think it was good. Maybe kids that are watching this stuff, they think this is good. But if I were to comment on it, I would probably say it's like bad. But I don't know, like whose opinion matters? I mean, probably the people that are watching it, right? Not the people that aren't watching it.
Network bumpers can garner millions of views. Not the shows, not even the commercials, just the bumpers. Clearly, there was something special about after-school programming. And while we probably won't ever see anything like it again, we can revisit it anytime, as long as we have an internet connection. And that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. If you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe to Nerdstalgic so you don't miss out on whatever we put out next.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, this is another good video from Nostalgic. It just, honestly, it just seems like the government just like had to like clamp down more and more over the years and push the more educational thing on shows. But it's like, I don't know. That is like a good question. Like, was it good for me to have like such loose rules and have like good cartoons, or at least what I thought was good, versus like, I mean, I don't know what's on now and what people are watching now, versus like what they're watching now and what they're gonna be like in the future. Like, who's to say like what's good and bad? I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, that's another banger from Nerdstalgic. He's awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.